On your go, Jennifer.
Welcome. My name is Jennifer Kelly, and I have the honor of teaching speech and dramatic arts. One of the reasons I love teaching this class is because it celebrates the uniqueness of the human voice. Each of us have our own beautiful speaking and singing voice, and each of us have the power to convey emotion and meaning through words. One of the biggest things I often hear from adults and children and teens is stage fright or anxiety to perform in front of an audience. This class is designed to give you confidence so that you can feel free and able to speak in front of an audience, whether that is a theater audience, whether that is just a small group of people at a business meeting. And what I like to do is use different mediums of literature and spoken word to help you attain your goal. One of my personal philosophies is the respect and process of the human voice. I like to call it body, breath, and sound. We need to engage our body, engage our breath to prepare for the sound. Today, I've asked a student, one of my friends, to come and help me, who has not seen the work I'm about to give him, up on the stage as I lead him through some vocal warm-ups, exercises, and text, so he can apply these techniques to his own speaking. Welcome, Dean.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You may take off your mask now, Dean. Thank you. So we're going to start with a physical warm-up. I like to situate myself in what I call actor's neutral, and that is for everybody going to be different. Our feet are hip-width apart. Our shoulders are relaxed. We're loosening our hips and trying to release all the tension that lies in our body from our day, sometimes from sitting at computers or just from not using the correct posture we want to. So we really want to engage the body. So let's start by rotating our shoulders. 3 back. Try to release all the tension of your day. Nice. And breathing while you're doing that. And 3 forward. Thinking about your neck and your head and how it feels. Trying to relax them. And 3 back, shoulders. And 3 forward. Being mindful of how your entire body feels, trying to relax it. Taking our right arm, stretching it across our body, just giving it that just gentle pull, opening our hand, closing our fist. Release. Close. Try not to move the head or the rest of the body, just focus on the hand. Release. And close. And bring it down. Shake it out. Now take the left arm. Pull it across, opening the hand, closing, opening the hand, closing, opening the hand, closing, and shake it out. Again, moving the hips. We keep a lot of tension as speakers, as singers in our hips. Great job. Stretch all the way up. And come all the way down. Bend the knees if you can't touch the ground. Do it to your own comfort level. And hang like a rag doll. Really let the arms flow. Let the hips move, the knees move, the whole body. And when you're ready, slowly coming up, vertebrae by vertebrae, the head should be the last thing that lifts. Nice, and rotate those shoulders and just lift the chin a little bit as if you were a puppet and a puppeteer was lifting your head. So your roots are growing right through the ground like a tree. If someone came and tipped you, you wouldn't fall over. You are balanced. Excellent. Now let's look at our mouth. Part of being an actor or a speaker is using our mouth. It is the vessel in which our sound comes out. Quite often, it's tight or tense. So we want to just open it really wide as if we were to sing, but we're not going to. Big mouth open. And close. And open. And close. And open. And close. I'd like you to chew, pretend to chew toffee. It's different than gum because it changes the sides of your mouth. So chewing and stretching that mouth muscle. Fantastic. And stick your tongue out and in and out and in. And one more time, out and in. It's a funny exercise, but we forget that the mouth is the vessel in which we speak. When we are going to speak, we have to think that the tongue is going to rest low. So open our mouth and just do ah, ah.
Ah.
One more. Ah.
Ah.
Great. And one more. Ah.
Ah.
Great. So our mouth is warmed up, our tongue is warmed up, and our body is warmed up. The next thing we're going to look at is our breath. And the wonderful thing about the human body is we have this fantastic diaphragm, but we don't have a mirror to see. It lies in between our rib cages. And this muscle is used to sustain breath, to hold the sound. So versus breathing in and clenching our shoulders like this, we're going to take a hand and put it on the stomach and one hand at the back, trying to make sure that we engage the ribs. We're going to breathe through our nose, and then we're going to release 4 shushes. Again, we're going to breathe through our nose and release 4 shushes. Breathing in, release. Shh, 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 shh. Great. This time we're going to breathe in through our nose. We're going to release 6 shushes. And try to feel in your body if you're raising your shoulders, if your neck is tight. Be mindful of the body. Be mindful of it. Breathing in again. Release on 6 shushes. Shh, 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 shh. And release any of the other air. Great. Last one, and this time we're going to breathe in, and we're going to release on 8 shushes. And the more that we work with our diaphragm, the more strength it gains, and the longer we can breathe, and the longer we can release our shushes. So this time it's for 8. Breathing in. Shh, 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 If you're feeling lightheaded, that is very possible because a lot of us don't use the diaphragmatic breathing when we're speaking. Quite often we just take a quick breath, our shoulders get tense. So it's really good to practice this quite often at home as much as you can in order to get used to that. So if you're feeling a bit lightheaded right now, just release a big ah and ah. Great. So we've looked at body, being mindful of our whole body and our mouth, our breath. And now we're going to place our voice onto the breath, our sound. So we're going to just start with some trills. If you can't put your lips together in trills, sometimes, especially if you have braces, this can often happen. Our is just as good. So let's just try. And again, the more that you practice this at home, and if you do this every day, the better the muscle builds and the longer you can do it for. And then when you put sound onto that, you can sustain your breath and sustain the sound and ultimately project better. Great. We're going to do some humming. Let's just start. Changing the pitch. Getting higher. And higher again. Good. We're now going to open on me, may, ma, mo, moo. These are vowels. Trying to keep our mouth open and the tongue down. Here we go. Me, may, ma, mo, moo. Place your hand on your chest and you should feel this beautiful resonation here. Again, breathing in through the nose. Me, may, ma, mo, moo. Excellent. I want you to think that you have a stick or a javelin. And what we're going to do is follow through the body with the sound. So I'm going to move back as I breathe. And when I throw my javelin, I'm going to release it on a big ah sound. So here I take my javelin, I breathe in, and I throw it. Ha! Here we go, Dean. Breathing in. Great, and the next one's going to be on an O. And if you notice, I'm not going to do this time. I'm going to listen to Dean. We're going to listen to the sound of his O. He's going to drop his tongue. He's going to place the sound on his breath, so he's going to take a big breath and really allow that O to flow through as he throws. Here we go. Take a breath in, Dean, and beautiful. So what I noticed is the breath is coming through the diaphragm. He did not have tension in his shoulders, his neck, or his throat. His mouth was relaxed. It was open. It made the sound open and flow beautifully on the breath. Thank you, Dean. The next thing we're going to do is move away from vowels and work on some...
There's a request in the side chat, if possible, can you remove the facial shield as it's creating some very interesting glares?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next thing I'm going to do is work on consonants. And I will always say this, the vowel in a word conveys emotion. The consonants convey meaning. And the more we are able to manipulate both and recognize the difference, the more we can convey as much meaning in our speech. So to warm up our consonants, we work on tongue twisters. I'm sure many of you know a variety of tongue twisters. One of my favorite, Dean, is unique, New York, New York's unique, focusing not on the vowel, but on the consonant. So here we go. Focusing on a breath first, body's relaxed, and unique, New York, New York's unique. Unique, New York, New York's unique. Unique, New York, New York's unique. This time I'm going to ask Dean to say the tongue twister, but change his pace. Pace, in case you don't know, is the speed. So it's either going to be slower or faster. He's going to change his pace. Whenever you're ready, Dean.
Within?
Yes?
Unique New York, New York's unique. Unique New York, New York's unique. Unique New York, New York's unique.
Excellent. So I really love the variety of pace. It gives meaning completely to two different words. Let's try the faster one. And what I'm going to ask you to do, Dean, is in order to get this out, really focus on the N and the U-Q. So unique New York. Yeah.
Unique New York.
Yes, so N and K, N and K are key here. So focus on N and K, the vowel is unique New York. New York is unique.
Unique New York, New York, unique.
Yes, excellent. That's just one or two consonants.
It's my favorite one.
I know. As you take my course, I have a variety of them, and they really help because quite often we trip on our own words, even if we've memorized something. And it's really important to know that vowels and consonants have a different technique, and the more we get to apply them to our work, the better we are at public speaking. Super. Now what I'm going to do is give Dean two different texts. In speech arts, we explore a variety of texts: prose, poetry, monologues, duologues, famous speeches, your own written word. Today I've chosen two of my favorites. One is a monologue, which is from a play, or it can be from a movie, and it's only spoken by one character. So we're going to start off with the monologue, and I'm going to let Dean read it cold, meaning he's not seen it before. Thank you, Dean.
A woman was gossiping with a friend about a man she hardly knew. I know none of you have ever done this, and that night she had a dream. A great hand appeared over her and pointed down at her. She was immediately seized with an overwhelming sense of guilt. The next day, she went to confession. She got to the old parish priest, Father O'Rourke, and she told him the whole thing. "Is gossiping a sin?" she asked the old man. "Was the hand of God Almighty pointing a finger at me? Should I be asking your absolution? Father, tell me, have I done something wrong?" "Yes," Father O'Rourke answered her. "Yes, you ignorant, badly brought up female. You have borne false witness against your neighbor. You have played fast and loose with his reputation, and you should be heartily ashamed." So the woman said she was sorry and asked forgiveness. "Not so fast," says O'Rourke. "I want you to go home, take a pillow up on your roof, cut it open with a knife, and return here to me." She went home.
Thank you, Dean. So I want to point out some of the wonderful things Dean used with his voice without me telling him. First of all, his breath was engaged, and the sound flowed through the breath. It wasn't stuck in his throat. He was relaxed. His mouth was open. Another thing he did really well was use consonants. For example, his H, or H, was really pronounced. And so was a lot of his other diction. So I clearly understood what he was saying. We call this enunciation. When I speak clearly, I am enunciating. He also used effective pauses. Now, effective pauses, sometimes in theater we call these a beat, but in public speaking we call this an effective pause. I take a pause because I want to convey a meaning to you. Now I'm going to ask Dean to change his tone. Tone is one of the most wonderful techniques we can apply to our voice because tone is the emotion in which we convey. But in order to convey tone, we need to use the vowels. So Dean is exceptional with his diction, his enunciation. I'm going to ask him to shape his vowels a little bit more. So when we're thinking of our vowels, our A's, our E's, our I's, our O's, and our U's. So as he reads the words, he's going to open the sound of those vowels. I'm also going to now tell Dean what this piece is about. I love to let people just read coldly, okay? So this is from a play, Doubt a Parable. And the priest who is speaking, Father Flynn, has just witnessed people gossiping. And he is giving them a lesson as he's preaching to them. And his message is that they, in fact, are gossiping. And it's not just the story in which he's talking about. That is gossip. So, Dean, I'd like you to take a tone in your voice that has a meaning of morality, teaching a lesson, all the while using your open vowels. Again, notice I'm not needing to work with diction with Dean. I also don't need to work on effective pausing. He seems to take the pauses where he needs to. I will ask him to do one other thing, and that is when he speaks the female voice or the different voices, I'm going to ask Dean to change your pitch so I can identify the different voices that are there, which captivates the audience because they know it's not Father Flynn. Whenever you're ready, Dean.
Could I have clarification?
Please.
Just clarification on the words that are actually in quotations are different from the start of the monologue. Are they three different voices then?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Father O'Rourke is another priest.
He's the
There's a
third
woman.
person.
Correct.
Thank you.
So there's actually three voices. The main voice, Father O'Rourke, and the woman.
Perfect.
Thank you, Dean.
That helps.
So placing your body just relaxed.
A woman was gossiping with a friend about a man she hardly knew. I know none of you have ever done this. And that night, she had a dream. A great hand appeared over her and pointed down at her. She was immediately seized with an overwhelming sense of guilt. The next day, she went to confession. She got the old parish priest, Father O'Rourke, and she told him the whole thing. "Is gossiping a sin?" she asked the old man. "Was the hand of God Almighty pointing a finger at me? Should I be asking for absolution? Father, tell me, have I done something wrong?" "Yes," Father O'Rourke answered her. "Yes, you ignorant, badly brought up female." I've forgotten the accent.
That's okay. We're not going to go there. Yeah.
"You have borne false witness against your neighbor, and you have played fast and loose with his reputation, and you should be heartily ashamed." So the woman said she was sorry and asked forgiveness. "Not so fast," says O'Rourke. "I want you to go home, take a pillow on your roof, cut it open with a knife, and return here to me." She went home. I can continue or stop.
Yes. I'm going to get you to just stop right there.
Thank
and
you.
I want, notice there's a lot of O's in here, and Dean really emphasized those O's. This helps bring the tone through. We're going to go from not so fast, and I'm going to continue to ask you to really elaborate on the vowels.
Okay.
I love the change in voice. The reason I didn't choose accent, it actually says here to use an accent. Accent's something that we specialize in much later. It's another challenge in itself. So we're going to go from not so fast, opening our vowels, and continuing with that moral tone.
"Not so fast," says O'Rourke. "I want you to go home, take a pillow up on your roof, cut it open with a knife, and return here to me." So she went home, took the pillow off her bed, a knife from the drawer, went up the fire escape to the roof, and stabbed the pillow. Then she went back to the old priest as instructed. "Did you cut the pillow with the knife?" he says. "Yes, Father." "And what was the result?" "Feathers," she said. "Feathers," he repeated. "Feathers everywhere, Father. Now I want you to go back and gather up every last feather that flew out on the wind. "Well," she says, "it can't be done. I don't know where they went. The wind took
Beautiful. Thank you, Dean. So if you notice, just opening his vowels really convey the emotion and the tone of this piece. And quite often we don't do that. And just trying to focus in on that, Dean is an exceptional actor, but just taking the words, I didn't ask him to do anything with his body. He used only the power of his speaking voice. I'm going to ask him to go to feathers, because if we're looking at the actual script, feathers is the final message. Feathers are what gossip are. They float in the wind. So we're just going to look at feathers again, and we're going to open up the entire sound of that word, all of it, its consonants and its meaning, and we're going to work with the pace, meaning the speed of that. Thank you, Dean.
And what was the result? Feathers, she said. Feathers, he repeated. Feathers everywhere. Father, now I want you to go back and gather up every last feather that flew out in the wind. Well, she says, it can't be done. I don't know where they went. The wind took them all over. And that, said Father O'Rourke, is gossip. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Dean. And if you notice, feathers was said more than 4 times. Anytime we repeat a word in a piece of literature, whether it be a monologue, a poem, or a piece of prose, it needs to be said differently to add variety, sometimes to enhance meaning, and sometimes to change meaning. If you notice, Dean opened vowels, closed vowels, changed the dynamics of the sound when the woman was speaking. He was quieter, which is really effective vocal technique. We don't always have to speak loudly to convey our message. We call this volume. When I'm projecting in a theater or in a space, I'm speaking loud enough so my audience can hear. It's very different when I use volume, like Dean just showed us, which is to either whisper or shout. So thank you for adding that not final, but yet another vocal technique. I don't need to teach Dean. This is wonderful. This is exceptional. I'm going to ask him to do one more line, and I'm going to show you the effectiveness of a pause. And I'm going to ask him to take the pause longer than we would, just to emphasize it. So we're going to go to, well, she says, it can't be done. I don't know where they went. The wind took them all over. And we're going to take a big pause after that. Go ahead.
Well, she says, it can't be done. I don't know where they went. The wind took them all over. And that, said Father O'Rourke, is gossip. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
That was a great example of how an effective pause really drives the meaning of the final piece. And just that pause that he took relayed that moral message in which the priest was trying to deliver from the beginning. Dean, thank you so much. And if we're just going to review the things that Dean did, so he used pace, which is the speed in which we speak, to add variety to his monologue. He used tone, which is changing the emotion in which we speak. He used effective pauses, which again is to convey meaning and to really hit hard our message. He used delivery of consonants and vowels, which is proper enunciation. He used volume, quiet, medium, and loud, to choose a variety of ways that we can convey what we're trying to say. And finally, he projected for the space, meaning the space in which we were at was a perfect volume for public speaking. Thank you so much to you, Dean, for listening to my...
I appreciate it, because you don't know when you're reading, it's nice to have another voice, another opinion, someone who can say, hey, have you tried this? And
And I really appreciate that. And especially for actors, quite often we get our body involved. Well, that's the next stage. And that's because innately we want to do that. But if we were to close our eyes and not be able to see, the spoken word should be able to reach us before the body even moves. So, Dean, I'm going to have you look at something that is what we call one of the most challenging things in speech and dramatic arts, and it's a piece of prose. So it comes from a book. I've chosen Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens, and I've chosen chapter 2. One of the biggest challenges of prose, but it's so juicy because what it does is it really teaches us to use our voice to its maximum. You need to change your voice in order to read different characters. You need to change your pace. You need to change your tone. You need to change your volume. You need to work on your vowels and really eat at those consonants. So there's a lot that's thrown at you in a piece of prose. So Dean is going to be the narrator, and then he's going to play an array of characters. He's not seen this yet, so here goes. Thank you, Dean. No pressure.
No pressure.
We're just having fun after all. Really, this is about having fun. It's not about perfection. I really want to reiterate this. This is about exploring the beauty of the human voice. We all have an incredible different gift inside us. And this is about having fun with your voice and doing the things that you never thought you could do. Here we go.
Thank you. The evening arrived. The boys took their places. The master, in his cook's uniform, stationed himself at the copper. His pauper assistants ranged themselves behind him. The gruel was served out, and a long grace was said over the short commons. The gruel disappeared. The boys whispered each other and winked at Oliver. While his next neighbors nudged him. Child as he was desperate with hunger and reckless with misery. He rose from the table and advancing to the master, basin and spoon in hand, said, somewhat alarmed at his own temerity, "Please, sir, I want some more." The master was fat, healthy man, but he turned very pale. He gazed in stupefied astonishment on the small rebel for some seconds, and then clung for support to the copper. The assistants were paralyzed with wonder, the boys with fear. "What?" said the master at full length, in a faint voice. "Please, sir," replied Oliver, I want some more." The master aimed a blow at Oliver's head with a ladle, pinioned him in his arms, and shrieked aloud for the beadle. The board were sitting in solemn conclave when Mr. Bumble rushed into the room in great excitement, and addressing the gentleman in the high chair, said, "Mr. Limbkins, I beg your pardon, sir. Oliver Twist has asked for more." There was a general start. Horror was depicted on every countenance. "For more," said Mr. Limbkins. "Compose yourself, Bumble, and answer me distinctively. Do I understand that he asked for more after he had eaten the supper allotted by the dietary?" "He did, sir," replied Bumble. "That boy will be hung," said the gentleman in the white waistcoat. "I know that boy will be hung."
Thank you. And it's such a classic piece that we're all expecting it. What I really enjoyed Dean's interpretation was that he really opened those vowels and focused on the alliteration. It's not something I've mentioned yet, but quite often when we have alliteration in a piece, we really want to make sure that we're using it to our advantage because it's visual imagery. We're painting a picture for the audience to see with our words. I also wanted to point out that he used the word fat and act and pale and just playing with those beautiful big vowels that you could see these gentlemen in the room, which is something that we can play with when we want the audience to take the journey with our sound. We're going to go from "What?" said the master at length in a faint voice. And this time I'm going to ask Dean to change his inflection. I grew up in Ireland where we naturally inflect up all the time. In North America, we tend to inflect down. And sometimes what happens is we drop the sound. It happens just naturally. It's just part of the North American wonderful, beautiful language we have. So I'm going to ask Dean to intentionally inflect up. It might be over-exaggerated a little bit, but we're going to do that. And the other thing I'm going to ask him to do, which is a huge challenge, is to really identify those different voices. And one of the ways we can do that, and he did, was changing the pace, changing the volume, but a key is to change the pitch. And this is where you can have so much fun. I love to play antagonists because you can just roar with your voice or make it much lower. So we're going to try and really change the pitch. No pressure, Dean. So we're going from "I love," and listen to the way he plays with that vowel. What? Here we go.
What? Said the master at length in a faint voice. Please, sir, replied Oliver. I want some more. The master aimed a blow at Oliver's head with his ladle, pinioned him in his arms, and shrieked aloud for the beadle. The board were sitting in solemn conclave when Mr. Bumble rushed into the room in great excitement, and addressing the gentleman in the high chair said, Mr. Limbix, I beg your pardon, sir. Oliver Twist has asked for more. There was a general start. Horror was depicted on every countenance. For more, said Mr. Limbix. Compose yourself, Mr. Bumble. I'm getting confused on who's speaking.
Yep, you're correct. For more, said Mr. Limbens.
Compose yourself, Mr. Bumble, and answer me distinctly. Do I understand that he asked for more after he had eaten the supper allotted by the dietary? He did, sir, replied Bumble. That boy will be hung, said the gentleman in the white waistcoat. I know that boy will be hung.
Fantastic cold read, Dean. And you could see that Dean was saying which voice is which, because in a piece of prose like this, we quite often color characterize, so we know when blue is for that character, orange is for that character, yellow, so we clearly know which voice we're going to use to distinguish the sound. One of the things, again, that Dean did really well, opening his vowels and his sound, change the color of the tone. The only thing I'm going to point out is when we speak a name, for example, if I say Dean, I'd like to introduce you to Dean. When I really want you to pay attention, I'm going to introduce you to Dean, Dean, my friend. I'd like to introduce you to Dean. Maybe I don't like Dean. I'd like to introduce you to Dean. Whenever we see a noun or a pronoun in a piece of literature, how we first address the name of that person allows the audience to know how we feel about them. So we're going to do a last time through final paragraph, and we're going to allow Dean to look at the words Mr. Bumble and how we feel about Mr. Bumble so the audience knows. We're going to look at Mr. Limbkins, and then we're going to look at the other, Oliver Twist, and how he says those names should affect how we feel about those characters. So have fun, Dean.
Sorry, can you confirm for me, because I'm still confused on language here. There was...
That's Mr. Limpkins still.
But it's Bumble who starts. Where does Mr. Limpkins come in? That's the...
He says, "For more," said Mr. Limpkins, "compose yourself, Bumble, and answer me directly."
Okay, but not until "for more." Thank
Correct.
you.
You're welcome.
That's where I was
I know.
confused.
If we were in class, Dean, we would have a highlighter and we would identify what those would look like.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Breath, body, then sound. Yeah, always engage that.
Mr. Bumble rushed into the room in great excitement, and addressing the gentleman in the high chair said, "Mr. Limpkins, I beg your pardon, sir. Oliver Twist had asked for more?" There was a great start. Horror was depicted on every countenance. "For more," said Mr. Limpkins. "Compose yourself, Bumble, and answer me distinctly. Do I understand that he asked for more after he had eaten the supper allotted by the dietary?" "He did, sir," replied Bumble. "That boy will be hung," said the gentleman in white waistcoat. "I know that boy will be hung."
Thank you. And thank you for those beautiful vowels and the breath. So, this was just a short demonstration of what my class entails. I want to thank Dean so much. I also want to thank our Justice for recording. And I'd like to invite you to explore speech and dramatic arts with me. It is the most wonderful way to get to know your voice and to celebrate your voice. We don't have to sound like each other. The joy of this is knowing what your voice can do and sharing the different kinds of literature that you want to share. It might be something you want to write yourself. And just from this demonstration, I hope you got a few tips: body, breath, sound, and then some of the techniques that Dean has demonstrated that you can apply to any piece of literature that you choose. So,
Jennifer, I would just add that in just these few minutes working with you, I've learned things that I hadn't thought about.
Okay.
So it was really nice to reconnect with things and actually try them. So it was great. Even for actors who have worked on speeches and on speaking in front of people, I think this is a really good thing.
well, thanks, Dean. And one of the wonderful things about this is we're pretty much, even if we're all online, the more we hear different people's speeches, different people's monologues, we learn so much. The joy of this class is also the variety in which people bring to the class. That a master class like this means we're all listening to you. We're learning from what you've done well, learning from the things you need to improve on, and then applying it to our own self.
Yes.
And then every person gets to listen and say, "Oh my goodness, I love that voice. What were they doing to attain that?" Or, "You know what, I think I can do that." And then, it's sort of this amazing, contagious celebration that we get to use our voices together. And I keep using the word celebrate because I mean it. We need to celebrate the voice inside us. So thank you, Dean.
Thank you.